Big news, everyone. The Society of Massage Archives is officially a 501c3 nonprofit. Greetings. I am Kirby Clark Ellis, president of the Society of Massage Archives. This is a huge milestone, not just for us at SOMA, but for the entire massage therapy community. SOMA is dedicated to preserving and sharing the rich history of our profession, from rare documents and forgotten pioneers to the stories that have shaped this vital practice. We are making sure that our past is never lost. And now, as an official nonprofit, your support of the Society of Massage Archives means more than ever. Your donations are tax deductible, helping us to collect, digitize, and share the untold stories of massage therapy. Want to be a part of history? Here's how you can help. Become a founding supporter. Join our Founders Campaign and be recognized as one of the first 50 donors who made SOMA possible. Or become a recurring contributor when you pledge $20 or more to help us build and sustain this initiative for generations to come. Finally, you can help us out a great deal by spreading the word. Share this video and encourage others to preserve massage history. Your support ensures that future generations of therapists know where we came from and where we're going. Join the Founders Campaign today at societyofmassagearchives.org and make history with us. The past is in our hands. Let's preserve it, one story at a time. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast do not necessarily reflect those of the Society of Massage Archives. These interviews and commentaries represent the recollections of both the hosts and the guests, and as such, are subject to the occasional slight inaccuracies. The content here is for informational and educational purposes only. You should conduct your own historical research when determining the veracity of any of the statements made within.
Greetings, and welcome to the Hands of History podcast, a production of the Society of Massage Archives, where we delve into the rich tapestry of massage therapy's past, explore its evolution, and share the stories that have shaped this vital practice. Today is Monday, July 7th, 2025. I am your host, Kirby Clark Ellis, and I'm joined today with Meg Donnelly. Meg is a licensed massage therapist and owner of Nova Weekend Warriors, a massage and mobility studio in Herndon, Virginia. She's been practicing since 2016 and mostly works together with folks on their pain management, stress reduction, and athletic recovery goals. Whether they're recreational athletes, just starting a fitness routine, or just trying to feel more at home in their bodies, Meg is happy to encourage them along the way. Her sessions blend massage therapy, mobility work, and lymphatic techniques, all rooted in a collaborative, down-to-earth approach. Her catchphrase for Nova Weekend Warriors is, "Move freely, feel awesome." When she's not in session, Meg's usually working behind the scenes to support the massage profession itself. She's helped organize local therapists to push back on unfair town-level fees and county-level regulations. She's co-led 2 courses on challenging racism in the massage profession and spends a lot of her time thinking about how massage can stay ethical, accessible, and human-centered for clients, community, and massage therapists alike. Outside of the massage world, she's a budding mixologist, which, if you don't know, for people like me, is an alcohol-free mixology enthusiast. She's finding new alcohol-free drink recipes and unlikely flavor combinations, ideally while listening to a podcast with her feet up on the couch. Welcome, Meg.
Thank you so much for having me, Kirby. I appreciate it.
Yes, this is awesome. Like I've already shared with you, I've heard a lot about you before, and I'm really excited and enthusiastic to have this conversation with you, and glad that you answered the invitation. Take us way back. How did you first find yourself in massage therapy?
Yeah, so I think like a lot of like I one of the wonderful things about massage therapy is I feel like none of us have the same trajectory and like none of us have the same backstory, which makes it really interesting. For me, I was in the hospitality industry for 20 plus years, in hotel sales and management before I left, and I was really struggling a lot on many different levels. Undiagnosed adult ADHD and everything, all the fun stuff that comes along with that. And at the time, I had no idea, right? So I had a little bit of depression, a little bit of anxiety, a lot of bit of ADHD that I was not diagnosed with. And it all kind of came to a breaking point. And one day when I was at home and I was kind of just like having a moment, and my husband looked at me and he said, like, you've been saying you were going to leave the hotel industry to figure out what you want to really do when you grow up for 20 plus years. So when are you actually going to do it? And it was kind of like a moment that I needed. And I was spinning plates and the plates were breaking and I was trying to make sure that nobody was noticing them. And then I realized, whoa, I really do need a break. I was also helping out as a lot of us, so many of us in the industry, over 80% are women, right? And so for women, we end up a lot of times being caretakers. One reason why maybe we get into the profession, but then also we have other responsibilities as well. So I had a family member that I was helping to do some caretaking with at the moment as well. And so I think all of those worlds collided, and I decided it was time to leave. And so I was going to take a few months off to kind of figure it all out. And my company at the time was wonderful and decided to give me a leave of absence. And during that leave of absence, the first weekend, I did the quintessential, let's go to the mountains and find myself. And so we went out to the mountains and I found myself slipping on a boardwalk and breaking my wrist. Yeah. So broke my wrist and it was pretty bad, shattered it on one side, bones separated on the other. Um, Long story short, had a really terrible, terrible recovery from that. So my surgeon was a little bit backed up and ended up my surgery happened 2 weeks after my original injury. So that was kind of some healing had already started to happen. So they had to kind of undo that. I was in a lot of pain. And when I finally found myself coming out of the soft cast and going into physical therapy after surgery, like everybody else that I was in surgery or I was in PT with was off pain meds completely. And I wasn't. And also I was in pain like every single day, even with the pain meds. So I made a rogue move that was not correct and took myself off of the pain meds. And that was quite a mistake and had all of the wonderful withdrawals. And this was 2014 or 2020, about 2014, 2015, just around the start of the time that we were kind of seeing that maybe Oxycontin for, months on end wasn't really a great idea. And we were still kind of prescribing that quite often. So I was kind of fallen victim to that and had to get myself back on to that and then slowly wean myself off. And during that process, I was in so much pain. And my physical therapist at the time said, Meg, I just think that you have a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety around your injury. You're dealing with a lot physically and in all the other ways too. I think you might benefit from adding massage. And like, obviously, I'm working with you directly on your wrist and all of that, but just in general, like a nice reset for your system. So I went and I had one massage and I was like, it's okay. And then she said, I want to challenge you to go and see another massage therapist and just like do some research first and find a massage therapist that really kind of, resonates with you. And so I did. And I ended up finding, fondly enough, her name is Megan as well. And yeah, which is great. And so I had a massage from her and like I slept great for the first time since before my injury. My pain level didn't go down, but like the way I felt in my body and the way I was able to handle the pain had really just significantly changed. So I felt like my activities of daily living became a little bit easier. And that was when I decided that I wanted to become a massage therapist. So that's how I got started. Yeah.
There's a lot to unpack in there, Meg, which I love. The first thing that's really jumping at the front of my mind is this is a really good example, at least to me. Your story fits in so well with the biopsychosocial framework. You had a biological injury, you broke your wrist, but you also had these psychological things. And I imagine that the broken wrist and kind of interrupting this self-discovery journey also played into psychological aspects, and then also the social of you've taken this time off, you've got a family to support. Can you speak a little bit more? Does that open any doors to a conversation when you frame your story as a biopsychosocial story?
Oh yeah, 100%. And it's funny that you say that because I never put kind of two and two together, how that biopsychosocial, like I was really drawn to that. When my early days in my career, I was introduced to Rajam Rose and the San Diego Pain Summit. And that was kind of my first foray into really understanding what that meant, because that wasn't necessarily in those terms introduced in school for me. And it's funny because thank you for putting that together for me because it never really dawned on me that in my story how much that is and how much I follow that to this day. So yeah, absolutely. I had a lot of life changes that were going on at once, and I had a lot of physical pain and a lot of emotional pain as well, which, we know that those tie together. And so I do think that having someone in my corner, in this case, first, it was actually an occupational therapist because it was for my hand, but having my occupational therapist and then having the support of a massage therapist just to hold space, right? So they weren't giving me, and I think this is the thing that really gets confused when we talk about the biopsychosocial, is that people say, we're not therapists, right? We're not mental health therapists, and we don't do that. But just having people hold space and having people be able to allow me to tell my story. Whereas I did feel like with my doctors, they kind of looked at it straightforward, not at me, but straightforward at my break, right? And this is do this, do this, do this, do this. Well, I'm sorry we can't see you for 2 weeks, but you're just going to have to deal with it. And that was kind of, the opposite of what I really needed. And so to find people in our corner that were able to kind of nurture and listen to me, just tell my story about like what happened. I think that in itself helped me. And then touch, right? Touch is so important. And I think that to give yourself that body awareness and then to make myself, instead of removing myself, right? I was constantly in the early stages trying to remove myself from the pain, remove myself from my arm, not look at the stitches, not look at what was going on. And then all of a sudden I had the ability to like just gently over the gauze, put my hand over my wrist and make it part of me again. And those little things just really made an impact for me. And it's funny, I never thought of it that way, but that I think really did have the kind of created the massage therapist I am today. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Another thing that I hear in this story is a lot of non-linear progress and then steps back, progress and steps back in your story. And I'm wondering if that also was part of framing your experience in massage school and later on your career as a massage therapist.
Yeah. I mean, we know, right? The trajectory is never a straight line, right? It's always got peaks and valleys, peaks and valleys, peaks and valleys through our lives, right? And we see that with our clients as well. Right? We don't see a client typically every once in a while, but if someone comes to you with a chronic pain issue, we don't see them get better week after week after week. We have good days and bad days, good weeks and bad weeks. And certainly that was the case for my journey and like still is to this day, right? Like life would be quite boring if we only were happy all of the time. And we really, in order to be a whole human being, we need to have all of our emotions. We need sadness and happiness and anger and everything in between all of that, right? And so that's, I think, what makes us a whole person throughout our lifetime. So, yeah, I don't know if I answered the question, but I would agree with you that it is not linear in any way, shape, or form. And it continues to be nonlinear for me.
Does that help you maybe set and realign expectations of your clients, having that experience yourself?
Yeah, I feel really lucky because what I kind of do with my clients is before we ever meet in person, clients, we have a online video call. And that's where we really talk about first and foremost, what are their goals? And then, kind of talk about a little bit about what I do, how we'll work together. And I think working together is really the key, is that I don't work on someone, I work with someone, right? And so we have to figure out what your goal is together. An example, right? We might think that someone's goal that they're a runner and they injure some part of their body. And we go, okay, great. We want to get you back out to running. But then we find out like, no, their actual goal around that is they want to be able to squat down to be able to pick up their grandkids. And so they run just for fun, and to, stay in shape or whatever it is, but that's not the goal of why they're here to see me. They want to make sure they can reach down, lift up their kid, and hug their grandkid. And so if I didn't know that goal, I might be approaching it completely different, and my conversations with them might be completely different. And so, yes, I absolutely think that that is really important.
What that brings up for me is so much right now of the work that I do, and sometimes I verbalize it to the clients to give them a clue, but it's helped me make as few assumptions as possible. Spoon feed me why you're here, how I can be in support of that goal.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's really difficult sometimes too, because I'm coming from a mindset of my own bias and where I'm coming from. And also, I'm a sole practitioner. I have my own business. I get to make my own rules. So I can set up a free 15-minute appointment with a client before they come in the first time. I can ask my clients to fill out their forms ahead of time. And that way I can review them and pull out one of my many books and, go through them, or if it's something I'm not familiar with, call them back and say, "Hey, I'm not familiar with, how does that feel in your body? What's happening for you?" I have the ability to do all those things. I have at least a half an hour, if not an hour, between each client. And so I have time where I can sit with someone for 15 minutes before we start work on the table. And after we're done working together on the table, we can then talk about what that was. And it's always a good reminder for me that there are people that are not in those situations, right? And so if your employer is not giving you time in between clients, or you only have 10 minutes and that's just enough time to clean an office, how do you work that in a way that works for you? It's possible, right? You can have some of those conversations when someone's on the table, but I definitely feel that I need to recognize my privilege in that, for sure.
Definitely. Yeah. And just in my career, I've been largely an employee. So I want to say that it is absolutely, definitely possible to set up the time and make sure the clients have a chance to tell their story, and clarify questions is so important. And what I found also is that if you can take the time to that, not every client, most of them are really going to appreciate that. And they don't, it enhances their feeling that they're being cared for on the table. They don't care so much about that hard stop time as much as you might think in a franchise setting. So open up your mind to the possibility of how you can make this work for you, even if you're constrained by an employment situation and policies.
Kirby, I absolutely love that. And I love that you're kind of able to speak to that, because I think it's really, really important. And you're absolutely right. Like, the connection that we have with clients and the time that we have with them, right? Unlike other people that are health providers for them, they sometimes only have 15 minutes total with them. And we have, sometimes, like for me, an hour or 90 minutes, for others, 50 minutes. But that's a wonderful amount of time to be able to connect with your client and really understand them. And we know what an impact that makes.
Something that just clicked for me that I haven't really verbalized with anybody yet, so you'll be my first person. Sometimes when the clients are asking for deeper, they think they're asking for manual physical pressure. Sometimes what they're asking for is a deeper connection. And it doesn't have to require so much manual force. If you can just provide that space for more deeper connections, the outcomes can be I feel like it can be just as much, again, goes back to psychological and social connections, can be even more in getting them better outcomes than the physical pressure, I think.
Oh, I absolutely love that, Kirby. And I love that too, because, right? So for me, again, I have the phone call ahead of time. And then towards that, I will usually go into my kind of speech, which is like, listen, this is my approach is medium firm pressure. If you're looking for someone that puts that elbow in your back, I'm just not the person for you. It's not right or wrong. It's just not my way. And I find a lot, right? We have like a very desensitized. We're very desensitized in our bodies. And so we want to feel something, right? And what I try and kind of talk to people, especially when they're having like a pain cycle, is that like if I press here really hard, you're going to get relief because your nervous system is going to say, what is that new thing that's happening there? I got to pay attention to that. So it temporarily stops sending pain signals to an area that it's been saying, protect, protect that area, protect that area. And it says, wait, I got to pay attention to this new thing, right? But the problem is, depending on what I do and how much I aggravate it, I'm then could be creating more inflammation that didn't need to be there. And then you're now left hours later or days later with the original pain you had, because then your nervous system goes, oh, I got to go back to protecting that area. I've been protecting that area for years. I got to go back and protect it. And then on top of that, now you have this new nagging pain. Like my worst thing ever is when somebody goes, oh, I had a massage the other day and it hurts, but it was so good. And I'm like, no, it could be good without hurting. So, but I have the ability to take that time to tell that story and see if a client is on board with that. And if they're not, I say, great, here's the person where you're going to grit your teeth and like, they'll beat you up. It's not what my belief is, but to each their own. But the fact that you're able to sometimes, right? Because sometimes I think being an employee, you're not going to be able to have all of the conversation ahead of time. But you can then figure out in real time how to connect with them on that level so that you can kind of get a deeper connection to them without having to put yourself in harm's way of doing deeper work that's not really effective. Not to say that deeper work can't be effective and not to say that deeper work can't be reached, right? We could reach the deeper tissues without jamming that elbow in.
Exactly. I mean, we could probably spend the next 2 hours
I know.
going on the nuances of this conversation. And yeah, sometimes there's a lot of pressure in an employment situation because these people are usually they're signed up for, they get one session a month. They come in for that. They look forward to that. And if you're not exactly what they're looking for, there's a lot of pressure on you to be able to finally be the person that is the perfect match that is able to provide them some relief and some autonomy to their situation. But I haven't always been good at it. I've gotten better just recently here at the tail end of these 10 years I've been practicing. So I guess I just want to end this with, if there are other people out there listening and watching that are in a franchise or an employment situation, believe that it can be done. Find a way to make it work for you. And I don't know, maybe reach out if you need some more ideas and support. But yeah, it's totally possible to have these deeper conversations, even in these fast-paced, people call franchises the McDonald's of massage, but
Well, I hate that because there's really good massage therapists doing good work in franchises. And so I think we are doing massage therapists a disservice to like use terms like that because you can you can have a wonderful relationship with a massage therapist, whether you're with an individual practitioner, with a franchise, with a chain. It's about that individual massage therapist and the employers are always involved because you want to make sure that you're with a good employer and they're taking good care of you and all of that. But yeah, I hate that we've become that a little bit. I don't want to use the word hate, but it's frustrating to me that we kind of minimize it down to that.
I think we definitely have to be careful when we throw rocks that we're throwing rocks at ourselves oftentimes. So just be mindful, be sure that what you're saying about other therapists aligns with who you are, working with integrity. I don't want to get too far off track. I want to ask you, Meg, about so you're based in Virginia. Have you always been in Virginia?
I have, yes. So I went to a very small school. It's no longer open. And so we kind of had a rotating group of students. So you could kind of come into the program at any time and leave at any time. And they would just kind of like rotate through everything that we needed to know. So it was a very interesting model. We had like one teacher for throughout, so we didn't have like kind of a more robust education with kind of different views and different stats. Because of that, though, I think that one of the good things for me was I did kind of feel like I was only kind of hearing from one person. I ended up having two different teachers, but it was like one teacher left and a new teacher came in. So because of that, I think I really early on felt like I needed more education. And so I kind of went and seeked that out. So I went to the AMTA Virginia conference, and I went to the AMTA North Carolina conference. That was really interesting because everyone's like, "Why are you here?" And I was like, "I just need to learn everything I possibly can, you know." And then AMC at the time, the American Massage Conference, was happening in Virginia, so I had like been down to that one time as well. But I think what the great thing about that was it kind of gave me early on all of these different avenues, right? All and kind of getting those little tastes of 1 hour of a course here and 1 hour of a course there. So I could kind of figure out like who I wanted to be as a massage therapist and like what I wanted to focus on. And the great thing was too, like I think around maybe around the same time that you were becoming a massage therapist as well, like there was still a really hard push for like pick a modality and a person that runs it, and that's going to be the person you follow, and that's going to be all you do. And, you know, I'm the best at this and I'm the best at that. And it didn't really like fit, it didn't fit my model. So being able to go and get a taste of someone who was considered the expert in XYZ and someone else that was the expert in this, someone else. I felt like I ended up being more well-rounded because of that. And I didn't fall into the trap of I now have to spend thousands of dollars with one provider to constantly get my continuing education. But yeah, I've been in Virginia the whole time. I spent my first year working with someone. I was a independent contractor, but really everything kind of funneled through her business. And then I went out on my own. So it's been about 8 years out on my own.
Wow. That's really impressive to me because that's not easy to do. And I feel like the further we get into time, I don't know how to say that properly, but I feel like it gets harder and harder in this day and age to be able to be a sole practitioner or a business owner.
Oh yeah, well, we had like a huge stunted growth, right? Because we were like 3 or 4 years into it, and then COVID hit, and like 3 years, like poof, like right, gone. So I'm always like wondering, I'm like, am I 9 years or am I like 6 years, right? Like it's a little odd. And I mean, granted, like we just talked about earlier, it's not only about the hands-on work, right? So while we couldn't practice or while we could practice only in the limited capacity, we were still doing I don't know about you, but tons of, you know, continuing education, tons of conversations with other massage therapists on, you know, what are the other avenues that you're following right now, or we had a huge focus during the pandemic on like racial equality and like what can we do for our industry in that regard. So I think it gave us time to really like again nurture that biopsychosocial. Back to that, it gave us a good time to nurture that piece as well. Yeah, yeah.
Just to kind of go back a little bit, I like what you said about getting a taste from everybody. I think it makes for a more rich practice if you're able to cherry pick like that. Because, for example, some Ayurveda trainings that I've done, now I don't have a Shirodara pot, and certainly not at a franchise location. Do I have access to those tools? But there's something that you take from every class, whether you're conscious of it or not, that you're able to integrate into your work. And I think that's a really great. I guess my follow-up to that is how soon and how did you find your way to the associations?
Let's see. So when I was in school, I think I'm trying to think how I mean, once I was a student, I became a member originally of AMTA as a student member. Also, and you know what I think it really was is ABMP might have come first because they had what seemed like at the time a more robust training for getting ready for MBLEX, right? Like, what do we worry about students? We're all like, oh my God, are we going to pass the MBLEX? Like, I mean, I think everybody knows now, but, you know, I think it used to be a different exam. And now pretty much at most places, except for maybe New York and a couple others, it's the MBLEX is what's used for for our exam. But so I think that's where I originally came from. And I just I wanted to be as integrated and involved in massage as possible, that I felt like the associations would be one way to do that. The other thing too is I really, again, undiagnosed ADHD at the time. I struggle with learning, really struggle with learning. And traditional ways of learning in read a textbook, take notes, highlights, take a quiz, take an exam, I'll fail. I will fail that. So I need to hear it in different ways. And, like now it's wonderful now. Like you can take something and put it into Google. I forget what it's called now, and they'll make a podcast out of it. So you can actually now like listen even if there isn't, a audiobook for it. But so I'm more of an audio learner, a hands-on learner, that sort of a thing. So I just was craving ways to kind of make that connection. Just reading the textbook or memorizing the muscles just didn't work for me.
Gotcha. I'm wondering, are there ways that the ADHD has really come into play, either as I don't really like the word detriment, but in ways that it has been challenging, but on the flip side of that, ways that it has kind of been like a superpower?
Oh, yeah. Like I say all the time, like ADHD is both my superpower and my kryptonite. Like, yeah, I have two speeds. It's either procrastination paralysis or hyperfocus. So the wonderful thing is when I talk to somebody on our first call and they talk to me about something that I either haven't worked with in a really long time or haven't worked with at all, like I get to do a deep dive and like really dig in and like hyper focus and like pull out all my resources and kind of and then talk to them and say like, hey, listen, I haven't dealt with somebody with this for a while. So like my favorite question ever, so, love it so much, is like, so tell me about how this is for you and tell me about what the experience is for you, right? Because I don't need to necessarily like, yes, I'm going to make sure that we are practicing safely and that I understand what it is and that there's no contraindications, right? Like Ruth Werner taught us well. So I'm going to make sure there's no contraindications. But on top of that, I really need to know how it's affecting someone because everybody is going to be affected differently. And that is really going to kind of direct how we can work together, what works and what doesn't. So I think from the hyper focus standpoint, like it could be great. From being a business owner, there are always things as a business owner that we do not like to do, right? And so from that standpoint, I can really get into procrastination paralysis. And I had certainly had years where I'm crying into my computer on April 15th getting everything, done to get my taxes turned in on time, right? So, but then during the pandemic, right? Again, positives and negatives. One of the positives during the pandemic was I could really kind of go inward. I met with a psychiatrist and met with a psychologist, and like immediately we determined like ADHD, adult ADHD. And so then I was able to kind of start with I do CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy, and ACT, which is acceptance and commitment therapy. And those two things work really, really well for me. Giving me tasks that I have to complete and then having someone that holds me accountable to that is really the way that I tend to work well. So, whereas like talk therapy works better for some people, for me, those two things work really well. So, as long as I manage that, like through that process, I tend to do really well. Right now, my hyper focus is we have our county is trying to do new massage regulations for 2026. That will, in essence, if they go through, I'll have to move my business to another county because they're just going to be too strict and we won't be able to work in the capacity as individual massage therapists. Larger chains and larger franchises will be able to, kind of eat those costs, but they're just going to be too cost prohibitive for us and also unsafe. Like we have things like they don't want us to allow us to lock doors and we don't have front desk. And so that's my hyper focus right now is like I'm really focused on that. And you can always tell when I'm in a hyper focus because like right now, my social media game for my business is not really that great because my attention is over here. So yeah, so it can be both a weakness and a benefit. But I will say is that by choosing massage therapy, it's wonderful for my ADHD because all of the things that we do in our room and with our client to kind of calm their nervous system also calms ours as well, right? We have soft music, soft lighting. We have the rhythmic flow. I do a lot of like longer, deeper myofascial, that's not painful work, right? And then I'm now doing some manual lymphatic drainage. So that kind of rhythm, right? That we're going through. Also, really being focused on my client and what my client's goals are, and like reminding myself through the session, that kind of helps to keep me focused as well. And I've seen a huge decrease in my symptoms since becoming a massage therapist alone. And I think it's truly because, again, we set everything up in this room behind me for them, but we get the benefits as well.
Yeah, I love that. It works out great for both of us. Uh,
Yeah.
it's a really
And
good.
I mean, it's not my primary focus, right? Of course, like my primary focus is not my needs when I'm with the client, but the fact that we kind of get that benefit anyway is wonderful, and really kind of allows me to work in a really good way, even though I am neurodivergent.
Right. Well, and I love that you say that you've noticed your symptoms have kind of eased through being a massage therapist. I'm wondering if that was ever, well, if you didn't have it diagnosed when you started massage therapy school, I wonder if that was ever something that you were expecting.
I'm sure, like somewhere in the back of my head, I was probably like, we all have this like vision of what it's going to be like to be a massage therapist, right? And I had like all the cliches in my head, from the you're going to make six figures because, all we do is, when we're in school, and like, gosh, please, schools, please run the numbers with everybody, like allow them to understand that. But in your head, you're like, wow, even if I only charge $100 a massage, 100 times 40, you're not hands-on for 40 hours a week, but 100 times 40 times, 52 weeks in a year. Like, okay, I'm not going to work 40 hours a week, and I'm not going to not have a vacation, and I'm not going to have 40 clients a week when I first start, right? So, yeah, all of that. And then I was going to like flow in and, in my flowy, yeah. So I had all of those, like, and I quickly, like, in school and through taking continuing education as a student, like, I then kind of cultivated who I was, going to be, and kind of what was important to me, and how I wanted to be client centered, and all of those things started to form, thank goodness, before I, got out into the real world, and then even changed even more through the years. But I think, sure, in the back of my head, I said, oh, I'm going to become this. And then like all of my worries are going to go away. And, it doesn't happen. I still have ADHD. My symptoms might be a little less than they were when I was undiagnosed, or that before I was a massage therapist, but I still have symptoms. It's still really hard.
And like accepting that, I'm sure is a huge part too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's like the hard part, right? Is that we want to say like we're strong, and we can do everything, and what am I putting out to the world, right? It's like the social media version of yourself, and then it's coming to the point where you can realize, no, 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 like I'm a whole being, I'm a whole person, and all of this is me, and that's okay. And I don't have to be perfect to work with people, right? And so I can have my own flaws and still work with someone and be really successful. And I don't also have to always be an expert. And I can be honest with my clients and say, like, that was like the most freeing thing was the first year. I'll be honest, I did the whole like run into the hallway, open the pathology book, and oh my God, I've never heard of this before. Can I work with this person? And then someone really early on said to me, why don't you just say to somebody, I'm not familiar with that, and how can we work together, and see where that conversation goes? And then if you have to pull the book out, pull it out in front of them. And like, oh, clients love that. They absolutely love that when you kind of say like, hey, I'm not familiar with that. How does that work for you? How does that feel in your body? What happens? How does that affect your daily life? And it's a wonderful thing.
I would say that also feeds into helping them. It's a social thing to do. If you're engaging the clients in mutual discovery, and you're learning about how it plays in, you're learning just as much as they're learning. I feel like that's a profoundly social engagement to be in.
Yeah, and I know we said it already, but it's just like you're a lot of times like I'm always so surprised at how much other people in their lives have not just listened to them. And not just healthcare, I'm not just healthcare providers, but just in general, right? Like, do we give someone the time to speak their story?
No, we don't. Uh,
Yeah.
And I personally want to be something different than what you get in the rest of the world. That's how I want my practice to be. I want it to be totally different than anything else you're going to get anywhere else in your life. So holding that space, giving them an opportunity to share, um, I think
Oh,
is
Kirby, that's so beautiful.
yeah, well, hey, I'm not the only one doing it, and it sounds like you're also doing it too. So kudos to you too, Meg. I don't want to get too far away. I want to ask because your impetus for getting into massage, part of it at least, was you took a break from your hospitality career to go on this self journey. But then you're also interrupting the self journey with this physical ailment of this wrist. I want to know, has that wrist ever come back into play through your career?
No, but I think that it was like the experience that I had with my doctors, it really helped it to mold who I am with my care with my clients because I was not thrilled with the way that I wasn't treated as a whole bodied person. I was treated as this is my injury and this is what we're doing and I'm the expert and just listen to me. And, when I said I was struggling with pain and then I was just given more pain meds. And then when I said everyone else is off of the pain meds, I want to be off the pain meds. And they said, well, that's ridiculous. And so like not understanding me and not listening to me, I think it definitely kind of helped to shape what I did not want my clients to feel. And I too have had massages where, I will say ahead of time, my shoulders feel tight to everyone, but they don't feel tight to me. So please don't beat up my shoulders because I will not be happy the next day. And I still have had massages with people that have said, oh, I really got to get in here. And I've said, please don't. And then I've had times too, like even as a massage therapist, where we go, oh, they're doing it. It's just going to hurt me tomorrow. And that power differential, even for a massage therapist on the table, I don't want to say anything. I don't want to hurt their feelings. I already told them twice. Let me not say it again. And I spend the whole rest of the time saying that in my head, and I don't say anything. And I go, Megan, you know better. You know about the power differential. Like, why didn't you just speak up for yourself? But that's why it's human nature. So, yeah, I went a little bit off topic there, but yeah, I think it definitely hurting my wrist definitely did kind of help. And, I've got a nice scar as a reminder. So if I'm ever kind of like falling off a little bit, I can like look at my wrist and kind of bring myself back to where I need to be as a massage therapist.
Yeah, a nice reminder, I suppose, a physical reminder to always be validating to your clients.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like, it wasn't really a shift away from my path to becoming a massage therapist, right? It really was like the impetus of like how I figured out who I wanted, where I wanted to go to school and what I wanted to do. And so in hindsight, I'm very grateful for that experience because it kind of gave me some really good insight in many different ways.
And then I'm wondering if, because you had this interruption of this self-discovery journey with this injury and this surgery, I'm wondering, did you ever make a return back to the hospitality and hotel industry?
No, no. When I left, had I think it's similar to what happened with a lot of people over COVID, right? When you are in something that you don't realize is creating so much stress for you. And it was such a high stress environment and such for me, not for everyone. There are wonderful people. There were wonderful people in my company. This was not a issue with them. This was an issue with me. But I realized that my stress levels were just so ridiculously high. And when I stepped away from it and I was like, oh, wait, this is what it feels like not to have a brick on your chest and an upset stomach. Oh, wow. So I think it was probably not a great industry for me to be in from while I was succeeding from the kind of like normal capitalistic ways that we judge. It was really, really, really unhealthy for me. I would not go back. Even if I couldn't be a massage therapist anymore, I would find something else to do at this point. It was a wonderful experience for me. I think being in sales and marketing also gave me a great way and great kind of two grounded feet for opening my own business. But I would not go back.
Just can't bring yourself to.
No, can't. Once you kind of get a break, right? And you realize like, oh, I really was spinning plates and they were breaking, but I was finding a way to replace them so that, nobody saw what was happening behind me. Look, pay attention up here. I think once I stepped away from that and realized that that really wasn't a healthy environment for me.
Unsustainable.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm wondering if, besides the sales background, if there are other parts of your time in hospitality that have also benefited you as a massage therapist. Because I think oftentimes we kind of, in the general public, they might see us less as healthcare and more as hospitality, certainly service industry. So I'm wondering if that also played a part.
Yes, and right, being in hospitality and being in the hospitality industry, like we can't always give the clients everything that they want, right? We used to have this thing that was called STAR, and it was smile, talk, anticipate needs, and take responsibility, right? So if somebody came with an issue, your first thing was to be hospitable towards them, right? So they may be yelling at you, but you want to come to them open. So it's not that you're like smiling, like, judgmentally at them, but you're just open to them and their conversation. Talk, letting them talk first, right? They are upset. They need to get that out. And so it's just kind of what we talked about before, right? People want to be able to tell their story. Anticipate needs. So while I'm taking in this information, I'm not spewing at them. They're right, they're wrong, but I'm thinking of ways that I can help them because the answer may be not what they're looking for. If my hotel was sold out and they came to the desk to scream at me that I had to walk them to another hotel that was, going to be 10 miles away, I can't say, "Oh, never mind, I'll give you a broom closet," right? That's not what they want either. But I can't say, "Let me kick somebody out to get you into that room." That's not possible. So I have to work on what we can't give them what they want, but what can I give them to help them get through this terrible situation, right? And then taking responsibility. So I would listen, we absolutely did oversell the hotel and we should not have done that. And so I understand why that makes you so upset. I don't have anywhere to put you tonight, but here are the options, right? And are they still going to be upset? Yes, of course. But so I think that the other thing that I've taken away is that like there are going to be times where somebody's going to want something from me that I'm not able to give them. If somebody again wants that deep pressure massage where I'm going to put an elbow in your back, I'm not going to do it. I'm just not going to do it for me. I'm not good at it. I'm not going to be good at it, and I don't want to do it because it doesn't follow my philosophy. But what I can do is offer them, hey, listen, if you're willing to try something different and willing to see how you feel over the next 24 to 48 hours after that, here will be my approach. And if you're not willing to do that, then I can give you a list of people that I think can give you more pressure. Or it may be something where like someone has had surgery in the past and is at risk for lymphedema. And I know that deep pressure is not the way to go. And so then my response may be, here's what I can offer. I can't recommend you to someone because I really can't recommend, that deeper pressure for you in those areas. But what we can do is give you a little bit deeper pressure in the other quadrants, right? And then see if that kind of like makes up the difference. And be willing to say, and if that doesn't work for you, I completely understand that you may need to take your search elsewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, very important. I'm going to pivot again. And I know we've spent a lot of time on your background, but some things are just sticking out to me. Virginia, and correct me if I'm wrong, because my research can always be wrong, but it looks like they've had their license for massage therapy. They've regulated since 96.
Yeah, so it's interesting. We've had certified, and this is where kudos to you because I'm guessing 96. I'm going to guess you're right. But we were certified through the state in about around that time. And then in 2016, that's when we changed over to licensure. So we are now officially licensed massage therapists. And that happened right before I ended up becoming a massage therapist. So that was like middle of the year in 2016. And then I became a massage therapist in end of 2016. Yeah.
Interesting. So I'm wondering, are you able to speak to a difference between having a certification as opposed to a license in Virginia?
So, in a limited way, right? Because I was never certified, but I think that most, most of the rules and most of what was on the books for us stayed the same. It was just kind of like taking it to the next level with being licensed over certified. So I probably would need to point you in the different direction of someone else that could kind of like talk to the nuance between the two. Unfortunately, since I just feel like we're in a weird time because I feel like we were going through this like wonderful time where we are really people are seeing us as the allied health professionals that we are, and that we were moving away from a lot of stigma. Now we're taking a little bit of a backslide. And so, whereas like what in the like late 70s and the 80s, we saw a lot of like local ordinance and local regulations popping up. And then as each of the states were moving to licensure or even to certification, because ours in Virginia was mandatory certification. So we weren't like the mess in California where you could or couldn't. And thank goodness I don't have to deal with that. But so I think, then a lot of those ordinances started to die off or started to be repealed. And I think, unfortunately, especially, I feel like, especially as of this year, we're seeing this another morality used in quotes pitch. And we're seeing a lot of, I think over the last few years, a lot of local ordinances creeping back up again. And there's a lot of overreach. And, like, listen, to Society of Massage Archives credit, right? Like, how do we learn? We learn from history. And so thankfully, we have like a lot of really strong and robust studies that show that local ordinances do not lower crime. They do not stop trafficking, and they do not hinder sex work. But what they do is create really unfair conditions for people who are really doing the work of massage therapy and drive them out of the town. And so that's kind of the fight we're in right now is that I won't say fight. We're working with our county executives to kind of like help them to understand how, in our case, these current regulations that they want to put through will unfortunately drive us out of town. And they don't drive the illicit businesses, for lack of a better word. They don't drive out the people who are trafficking. They don't drive out the sex work. Those businesses can afford to stay because they're making the volume and the money in order to kind of deal with the pains that the county is trying to enact.
Gotcha. I want to take this. This is as good of an opportunity as ever to do a deep dive on this and what you're currently fixated on. And I say that in the best possible way because I've also
Oh yeah,
I
totally.
can be as I can get down a rabbit hole as much as anybody. So I want you to really take your time. I want to hold this space for you to really tell me this story of what's going on where you're at in Virginia and specifically the issue, how you got involved and cued into it, and what you because it sounds like you're living history right now. So I want you to really give like if you can, a play by play of what's going on, and maybe if you can sprinkle in some where history has played its part in it and where you've really had some challenges and chances to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. So, let's see. So it was 2022 or 2023 when we first started working on something because our town uncovered old code on the books that said that massage parlors needed to pay $1,000 for their business license. That for many, many years had not been, we had not had to follow that. We followed our regular, which for most people, if you made under $100,000, was $35 or $50 for your business license fee. So they gave us like, I don't know, 6 weeks, some crazy short amount of time and said, oh, you got, nope, we uncovered this old code on the books and you have to pay $1,000. And we said, well, first of all, we're not massage parlors. Okay. So no. So we started that fight in the town. At that point, I had known a few massage therapists in the area, but not many, right? Because we can work in a silo and kind of, not be involved with other people. But one thing I can say to AMTA's credit is at the time, around 20, when I first started 2016 to 2019, we were holding coffee fusions. So they were kind of just an opportunity for massage therapists to get together. So I had met a few massage therapists that way to stay in touch with, specifically in my town. So we were able to kind of like coordinate and make a coordinated effort and get all of the community together. So we got massage therapists together, we got community members together to kind of all say that like this is unfair. We want to keep massage in town. We spoke to our town council members who were very supportive and said, no, we got to figure this out. Like, we're going to get rid of the code. And, I don't know why we're thinking it applies to you, but if the attorney is saying it applies to you, like it kind of does. So let's figure out how to change it. So we had a lot of like little loopholes with or a lot of, it wasn't an easy process, but luckily we had relationships with our town council already. We had relationships with some massage therapists, and we brought together a larger amount. So when you can kind of come in volume, right, and show that you're not just one single person, solo proprietor complaining, but you're a group of 30 massage therapists in town that you're going to lose, it makes a big impact. So we were able to make an impact there. We were able to get that rule taken off the books because, and this is what I always go back to. I'm like, when these regulations come up, I'm like, massage therapy is a protected term underneath Virginia Code of Law, and we're licensed. So we have to meet requirements. So that makes us legal, and that makes you be able to drive. Anybody that isn't doing the proper work falls under that. Human trafficking is illegal. So you already have the means to be able to go after people who are human trafficking. And I may have a personal opinion, yeah, left, right, or center, but sex work is currently illegal. So if you wanted to go after that, then you can find a way to go after that. But to have code on the books and then to lump us with a like term that is just like antiquated at best and say that we're those people, when clearly when that rule was put on the book in the 80s, it was clearly put there to address sex work and not to address people that were massage therapists. So we fought that. We were able to win ultimately. All of us had to end up doing individual audits of our business in order to get that fee reduced. That was an unfair burden, but you know what? This is what happens. You have to learn how to compromise. Yeah. So we went through that with the town, and that laid wonderful groundwork for us because then we learned some lessons in that. So we learned to make sure that like set up your Google alerts for your town and massage so you know what's going on in town. Then when I've actually a friend of mine, Casey White, who's a massage therapist who's kind of like leading our current push, a client of hers had said, hey, did you hear about these new regulations that are coming up for massage? And so she had not at the time, and I had not either. And then we looked into it, and it was funny because like the next day, then all of our Google alerts came bing, 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 bing up about it. And so we already had a group of like 10 massage therapists that were meeting regularly. So we would meet once a month just to be like, hey, what's going on? This is what we can share and everything. And then we were able to take that larger list of 30 and pull them all in and say, hey, this is going to be happening. And since we kind of already had a framework and a playbook of what we did on the town level, we're now able to follow that same framework on the county level. So I won't bore you, Kirby, with all of the details, but it goes from everything from they want us, our doors have to be open during business hours. So that means that those of us that don't have a front desk have to leave everything open, including our treatment rooms. So like, no, not doing that. If the new rule goes through, right now, it's not a rule. I would have to have a sign, which I kind of feel like is a scarlet letter without any proof. But we'll have to have a sign on our treatment rooms that say the police are allowed to enter at any time. We would have to have non-porous surfaces on the floors, walls, and ceilings. So I don't know if that's like tile from top to bottom. I'm not sure. I have some calls later to figure out what that one's supposed to mean. We would not be able to couldn't have sleeping quarters in your building, which is understandable if you're trafficking people. A lot of times they'll have a room that has bunk beds in it to house people that are being victimized. But in our case, it was or adjacent to. So city planners now really love mixed use buildings where there's businesses on the first floor, and then the second and third floor have apartments or condos. So we would not be able to be in any of those locations. And adjacent to, is that connecting? Is that not connecting? I have a hotel across the street. Would that mean I couldn't be here? So we're trying to work through that. And there's a laundry list of other things. Oh, laundry. No, wouldn't be able to do laundry at home anymore either. Would have to use a commercial service. Yeah, so we are just kind of reminding them that these rules for independent massage therapists and small clinics with like, 1 to 5 massage therapists in them, really we wouldn't be able to practice. I can't make my room non-porous, so I would have to leave. Our guess right now is they're probably talking about the businesses that do Vichy shower and do table showers. And those businesses are unfortunately typically in our area more likely to be running illicit activities. So our guess is that they're kind of trying to say that anything that's like water-based, right? Of course, you would need to have non-porous for that, but I don't have water-based in my business unless you want to include hot towels. So we kind of set up a playbook of kind of how to address this. And so, our mission obviously is to protect massage therapists and the public without enacting undue burdens on ethical professionals. Like, we obviously want the public to be protected. We obviously don't want human trafficking, but we also need to make sure that small businesses like ours are still able to thrive and exist. Obviously, the success story we had in the town of Herndon. So we're using that as a roadmap and our current challenges. In terms of history, I think what's really wonderful is we have a white paper that we created of 3 of the studies that show that local strict ordinances don't lower crime, stop trafficking, or hinder sex work. And so to be able to show that we have like a strong evidence base for why what you're doing won't give you the outcomes that you want. The CAMTC in California, I know people love it, they hate it, they want it, they don't want it. It's all its own thing. But one of the great things is that their report really showed that there was a big report that they did, and it really showed that that type of restrictions and regulations don't work. So that's one of the 3 studies that we included. Let me see what I went through on our playbook here, if that's okay. We talked about a base of support. And I think that for anyone else that's kind of needs to go through this in the future, like, reach out and host a coffee with your massage therapist business owners in the area. I know a lot of times we want to like protect our business and not share. You don't have to share stuff that you feel is proprietary, but just to get to know everybody so that when these regulations pop up, you've already got a good base of people and you've already got a good nurtured relationship. So you feel safe sharing. Staying alert. So setting up your Google alerts for massage in the town or county that you're in. Monitoring departments like public health and safety, consumer affairs. Because again, some places we're seen as allied health professionals, sometimes we're seen as consumer affairs, sometimes we're seen as, it depends on where you are. So you kind of have to check in all those different situations. Knowing your landscape, so really finding out and identifying where your licensing and permitting falls in your local government, I think is really important. And right, that's your living history is what do you need to practice where you are? And what do you need as a business owner? And what overlaps and what doesn't? And who does what? We have state regulation, we have county regulation, we have town regulation. So knowing all of those is really important. And then knowing your county's current committee structure and their meeting schedule. I think before any of this happens in your town or in your county, start kind of nurturing relationships with your elected officials. I have been surprised throughout my massage career. And like Kirby, you mentioned it before that like you heard of me through Alyssa Haynes on a podcast, right? And like if you like, and it's really, I got to know Alyssa through the Massage Business Blueprint community. And then that really got me engaged with reaching out to other people in the massage industry that I would think personally, or in the massage profession, that I would have thought personally, like they'll never talk to me. But then I reached out and they got back to me and talked to me. Like they're approachable. It's just that we think that they're not. And the same thing with our county officials. I was like, why are they going to want to talk to me? I'm a small one-person business. I don't make that much. Like I'm not important. They're waiting to hear from you. So you can kind of make those calls. When we had the town issue and now when we have the county issue, I do have some people that are really strong in the massage industry that are writing letters on our behalf. And like, if you ever asked me, like, would they write that? Like, would Cal with Healwell write a letter for me? I would have been like, no, they don't know who I am. Like, I'm nobody. But, you know, they did know who I am because I nurtured that relationship. But even if they didn't and I reached out to them, I feel like they would have because they would understand that it's an unfair restriction. So building the community connections, I think, is really huge. You know, unfortunately for us right now, AMTA and ABMP have not been able to help us. So we have tried on the Virginia level to see if our lobbyist would be able to assist, and that was what they weren't able to because they're dealing with the state level. And then from a national level, we haven't heard back either. But we were at least able to pull a from ABMP. They have a page on their website that addresses this, and then ABMP has an article. So at least we can pull those articles and then we can present them to our county officials to show that our organizations know that these are unfair regulations. And then scheduling local meetings with your local massage therapist. Just meet once a quarter. We meet once a month, but you don't have to start with that. And then when your regulation is proposed, then it's your time to move. It's a lot easier for us now to engage because we already had relationships with our county officials. We already have relationships with local massage therapists. We could take the local massage therapists we know, split up into groups, and then reach out to more massage therapists so that we can bring more people into each district. One of the things I do want to speak to is speaking their language. So, you know, you want to first like just your county officials are probably not trying to nefariously like kick you out. The problem is they're trying to address a really big, really complicated issue, and they don't have all the knowledge to do that, and they don't understand how this is going to affect us. So we always start by thanking them for wanting to be good stewards of our town, of our county, find the things that they're doing right that pertain to this, even if it's just that they want to have an active role in working on human trafficking. That's not our burden. But as community members, right? Not as massage therapists, but as community members, it's important to all of us. So letting them know that, emphasize the shared goals, emphasize public safety. I think this is a perfect example is the locked doors, right? So initially you think, well, yeah, because the police need to come in and see things happening in real time.
Right.
But then when you think of, oh, wait a minute, we had in another area of ours, people that had left their doors unlocked and someone had come in and stolen product because there isn't a front desk. We also had, unfortunately, you know, in our area, we do have a lot of unhoused people, and they would come in and use the restroom, which, of course, please come in and use my restroom if you need to. But they would come in and use the restroom and then kind of leave things behind or, you know, and then that's not a safe environment for our clients, right? So we have to kind of protect our clients as well. Emphasizing the shared goals there has been good so far in terms of talking to our elected officials because they've really then started to understand like, oh, that's why this would not be good for you and kind of come around to that. So mobilizing your group, making your voice heard. So making sure you're finding out when the meetings are, getting to those meetings. You're all not going to be able to go because we have clients, but you can have one or two representatives that kind of take the, I'll take anything that's on a Thursday afternoon. I'll take anything that's on a Wednesday afternoon. And then leveraging the media and making and public support. So again, just like you're like, kind of sometimes we minimize ourselves and say like, well, nobody wants to hear from me. But if you put a press release out there, there might be someone that picks up that press release and then shares your story. And then, like we say, the vote and beyond is our last phase. So ultimately, you know, our elected officials will vote for us in November, December. It might go our way, it might not go our way. So we're planning now for both situations. Do some of us need to move? If that happens, How do we do that? Do we talk to our landlords now? Do we talk to our landlords later? Did we get our landlord support? Did they send in,
Yeah.
information? So yeah. And I can share I ran through it, not really fast, but I ran through it. But if anyone is interested, I can send them our playbook in case it works for them. And I just tell everybody that needs it, I'm like, listen, all of that, what we're doing is not going to work for you. Take what works for you, leave the rest behind, and add what you want. And then please let me know what you add so I can add it to mine as well.
Right. I'm going to at least take this opportunity. Don't ever delete or throw away that playbook. Keep it for the historical record. First and
I'll give you a copy too, so you can keep it for your records.
Meg, a lot of great stuff in there. I have at least a dozen questions. So I'm going to peel this apart. You mentioned at least at the town level, there were maybe 30 individuals that were licensed. I want to know, was it hard to get everybody singing from the same hymn book?
I mean, that one was very easy, right? Like the only regulation that we had to address was massage parlors were going to have to pay $1,000 versus the $35 or $50 we were before. And also, we were going to be considered falling under that, even though we were massage establishments and not massage parlors.
Right.
So that was like a no-brainer. Everyone was like, "What, are you kidding me? No, I've always paid this amount. That's the amount I'm going to pay. I'm an allied health professional. Period, point blank." Even people, maybe, we still probably had some people that kind of considered themselves more personal care than allied health professional at the time.
Sure.
But even so, you're like, no, I mean, I like, who's going to disagree with like we shouldn't pay $1,000 instead of 35 or 50? So
Right.
that was an easy one to get on board. On this time with the county level, when the county dropped the bullet points, so they didn't drop the whole code first. When they dropped the bullet points at first, we did have some disagreements. There were certain things that I was like, that's not our fight. And everyone else felt like, no, that's ridiculous. Like one of the things, they're going to raise our fee from, I think it's $75 to $200 a year, right? And I was like, I can eat $200. Like we have so much else to fight. Like, ugh. And then everyone kind of said, no, Megan, restaurants who get like inspected like 4 times a year and like they have to spend much more time there, are paying $40. We're paying 200. And I was like, oh yeah, no, you know what, you're right. I do want to fight that fight. So we came to a consensus, and what we tell everybody is, when you're meeting with your elected officials, we're going to say as a group, this is our stance. What are the things we agree on? The things we didn't agree on, we'll leave out, right? But when you meet with your officials, it's your voice. So you can say as a group, here's what we do. And for me, this is really important as well. And for me and a group of, right, there might be a subset of the group that's all agrees that something is unfair, that the larger group doesn't agree with. And that's okay, because your elected officials want to hear from all of us. And you're an individual, and you have to tell them how it affects you personally, as well as how it affects the group. So you've got to give that space for everybody to have nuance, right?
I want to know also then, has it been hard to get engagement from practitioners on these issues? And if so, how have you found ways to build engagement?
Yeah, so you have to take a multi-pronged approach. Just like for me, I learn differently than other people. People take in information differently. So we hold a Zoom call probably about once every other week to kind of update people on where we are. We hold an in-person meeting once a month right now so that we can, those people that want to get together. And then we send out email through MailChimp that gives everybody the updates. And then once in a while, I'll send out like an old school email, like to a couple of people at a time, just to be like, hey, I'm just making sure you got this. And if you didn't get it, the MailChimp, version, let me know, because then I know there's a problem where it's going into your spam or whatever. I would say we have a good core group of 10 to 12 massage therapists that are really actively engaged. So they're the ones that are picking up the phone to make calls to other massage therapists. Then we've got a group of about 10 that are like, Meg, I would love to be involved, but like, I don't have the time. I don't have the bandwidth. I mean, it's like we're still coming off of the town level restriction. We're still coming off of the pandemic and how that like just ripped a lot of us, out in terms of financially. So I completely, and now, right, we're in a time now too where some people are afraid of like ICE coming into our neighborhoods and, breaking down doors and taking people that are here legally. So I completely understand and respect people that, say to me, I'd love to be involved, but I can't be involved right now for whatever reason.
Sure.
Whether it's your practice is really busy or you just mentally can't handle that. And then I just ask them, like, do you agree with our stances? And are you willing to be included in that larger group? So that when we meet within, because right, when we meet with our state or our local officials, are you comfortable with being part of our larger group, even though you're not involved? And so everyone has said yes so far to that. And so it's remembering that not everybody has to do everything. And I certainly don't have to do everything. But you do need someone that's going to coordinate it. And you need to have grace that not everybody's at the same place in their life where they can do things. I'm going to do it regardless. So if I go to my elected officials and I'm just one, that's not going to make an impact. But when I have 30 people that are saying this group represents us all, that makes a large impact that, and we're growing every day. I think we might be at 40 now. I haven't looked at the list, but yeah. So hopefully we'll continue to grow. And then as we meet with county executives, we can, have more and more people that are supporting the cause. And it's like that in any organization, right? There's a group that does things, and then there's a group that are members that are active, and then there's a group of members that are not active but stand behind the values. And we need them all.
Absolutely. I'm wondering then, this brings up an unexpected question. Is this a formal group or is this more informal right now?
Yeah, we call ourselves right now an informal collective. So we are not a nonprofit. We are not set up, with a 501 or anything like that. So our original group was the Independent Massage Therapists of Herndon, and that was our informal collective just for Herndon. Now we've expanded, and it's a long one, but it just tells what we are. The Fairfax County licensed massage therapist business owners, right? Because that's a very specific group. There are people who own massage businesses but aren't massage therapists. And so the rules would affect them differently than they would affect us as licensed massage therapists that are also business owners.
Okay. I want to ask, does Virginia, and this is just where I'm a little bit ignorant, does Virginia have a board of massage?
Yes. So we fall under the Board of Nursing. And then there is a massage therapy board. Different states handle things differently. Our state boards are, in essence, if we call for any like questions or anything like that, they'll refer us to our lawyer, which is kind of hilarious. I don't have a lawyer on, speed dial, but that their goal is to protect the public. My kind of fire back to that is I am the public. So I'm a massage therapist and I am the public. So you should support me too. But their stance on it is that they're there to protect the public, and meaning, I guess, our clients, and not necessarily there for us. So yeah, so it's been a little bit difficult to get clarification if you need it in that regard.
So I'm going to, and again, help me make as few assumptions as possible. Would it be a fair assessment to say it sounds like the Virginia Board of Massage hasn't been very much help in these issues?
No, and I think I think that to their point, I think that's purposeful. And I don't say that in a negative way towards them, but I think their stance is they're there to make sure that licensed massage therapists are acting in an ethical way according to the code of law. And so when they'll meet they'll meet, I think quarterly they meet, I'm not sure, maybe twice a year. But when they meet, they go over if, somebody's license is in question, those sorts of things.
And then that brings me to the associations. I know we've talked a little bit about AMTA, and really, I think the best bang for your buck with AMTA are those local chapters that are doing some more of the grounds on the work stuff, as opposed to the more larger view of the national office, because the local, those are your people. They're doing a lot of hard work, unpaid, and I'm just wondering, we've talked a little bit about AMTA. I'm wondering, have you had any help or support or input from the Federation, the FSMTB?
No, that's a really good point. So that is something we haven't reached out to yet, but yeah, I think that's a wonderful point to bring up that there's someone else that we can reach out to. Yeah.
Yeah, because maybe, they represent your board of massage, but I'm wondering if they might have some more resources that they might be able to share with you.
Yeah.
Talk to me about Google Alerts, and could you walk us through like setting those? Because I've never heard of that before, but it sounds like something I'd really like to do.
Oh yeah. So it's fun too. So you can do it for really anything you want to set them up for. So if you go to alerts.google.com, that will just and it will like literally walk you through what you need to do. The one thing I would tell you to do is just be as specific as possible, because if you just say, I want an alert anytime there's an article about massage, like you'll every day you would get like a million alerts. It would be too much. And not that massage is in the news that much, but if somebody says like even in an article like they wanted to massage the situation, like right, you'd get that as well. So I think for us what we find is if we do the town and massage, that's like small enough depending on your town name, right? You can get a good view, and I'll still get some stuff that doesn't pertain. Like if someone's last name is Herndon and there's something about massage, I'll get that. Our town is Herndon. So, but adding that, also if you're like I do mobility work as well, right? So that there's a perfect example of something that didn't work in the beginning. So I had mobility as a finder. And then I was getting stuff on mobility devices, which, as we know in our profession, is really important because we want to be accessible to everyone, but not exactly what I was talking about in terms of mobility exercises. So then I went back in the next day and like fine-tuned, what I was looking for, make sure these keywords are in there. And you can set up all the keywords that you want in there. I think you can also set up keywords that you don't want included so that they'll leave those out. And that really what that will do is that will alert you, because the towns or the counties, if they're going to propose new regulation, they typically have to put a public notice out. But what we found in Chesterfield County, a colleague of mine who's there, Roxana, they only put that in one paper, kind of tucked in the back of the paper and tucked online somewhere. So without a Google alert, nobody knew about it. The law went into effect, and then she had to retroactively, and they're still trying to retroactively get those rules taken off the book. I don't even know if they're going to be successful or not. The Richmond Times for them had done a big expose on it, how like what they wanted to accomplish actually isn't happening there. So that's hopefully helpful in their part. But yeah, so for us, it's great too, right? Because like I said, I mean, we ended up finding out from a client, but if Casey didn't find out from that client, we would have found out the next day anyway, because all of those kind of notices popped up for us.
Excellent. Yeah, I think that's something really important, that even people who can't be as engaged, like you talked about these different levels of engagement, if you can at least be in the know about it and add your voice to the rest of the group, that's super important and powerful.
Yeah, and like when you're fixated on something, like I tend to get, it's really great too. So like when I first finished my manual lymphatic drainage training, I put in manual lymphatic drainage. And so every day I was getting like new articles and new stuff. And then I would find something really cool, like in Australia, there's a alert project for through Macmillan University, and they're making like they had amazing studies that came out on how manual lymph drainage works, and some new kind of ideas that they've been using and utilizing really well. And so anyway, like I was able to learn about that and then kind of like fine tune my Google alerts so that I can kind of dig in deeper. So yeah, it works in many, many different ways.
Awesome. I love that. And again, it's my first time hearing about it, so I know it can't be the first time other people are hearing that suggestion. I think this might be, but I reserve the right to change my mind. This might be my last question to follow up on. Tell me more about this white paper.
Yeah, so realistically, what we did was we just pulled studies, that kind of pulled. I wanted to get research on what happened when there were local regulations and did they really help? And like the overwhelming response was that they did not help address human trafficking and they didn't help address sex work. So we started to gather those studies together and then like listen, I am not a writer. I do not that I do not claim to be, but then we were able to take those studies and I kind of like pulled out the parts that I wanted to highlight. And I took ChatGPT and I just like threw everything in there. So I did my word scramble of like, this is really important. And, my hyper focus, this is really important. This is really important. This is really important. Make sure this study is included. Make sure that study is included. Make sure. So almost like similar to like old school where you would just jot notes down before you actually create a summary and then kind of like, work backwards into your intro and your body and your conclusion. And so we took all that and I threw it into ChatGPT and was like, make this make sense and make this so that it's readable by county executives and county representatives that aren't going to want to take the time to read it, right? And so what it kind of spewed back to us was 2 pages that had a lot of like words bolded and bullet points, so it's easy to read, and then a deeper dive on pages like 3 through maybe 8 or 3 through 7. So if you wanted to kind of dig in a little deeper, you could, but you could also see this study shows bing, bing, bing. This study shows bing, bing, bing. So it'd be like easy readability. So is it like a classic white paper? No, probably not. But it serves its purpose.
I have to ask, is it accessible?
Meaning, oh, like available?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Anybody who wants it can just reach out to us and we'll send it to them. And I'm going back and forth on whether or not I should put it onto my blog post or if I may put it on Substack because, unfortunately, it has keywords in there that we probably don't want to be associated with for our business, even though we're talking about it in a very professional way. But so, yeah, something I have to think about. But in the meantime, sure. Yeah, I'll send it to you, Kirby, and then and I'm like happy for anybody to send it out to anybody else that would like to utilize it. And of course, if anybody has feedback on it, well, I'm always willing to tweak.
Cool. Yeah. Well, I asked because I know these sorts of struggles aren't just taking place where you're at. They're happening across the country and, more resources that we can all invest in communal share, I think is awesome. And also let me not let this moment go by without saying thank you to you and the rest of you in Virginia on the ground that are doing all of this hard work right now.
Oh, that's very kind, Kirby. I appreciate it. I think it's like it's a little bit it's odd to me because I feel like I think because I came into massage when I came in, like I came in and like most states were already licensed, right? So we forget that that like just happened, right? So for us to be able to organize on local ordinance level, like we're not there yet as a profession. But like in my mind, I'm like, well, why are we not there? They should all be connected. But I have to like remind myself that like we're still fighting for licensure in states, right? So we're still in the infant stages. But my goal is like if like with the playbook that we created or the white papers that we're create or whatever you want to call them that we're creating. Like if we can get, I mean, I just kept saying like this has to be out here already. Like, and everywhere I went, it was like, no, it's not. And then like I would reach out to our lobbyist and they'd be like, oh, you're doing a good job. And I was like, no, wait, like you're not supposed to tell me that. You're supposed to tell me what I'm not doing, like what more is there? So we figure, you know what? One of two things will happen. Either now we've started it so that other people can follow this or come up with their own, or at some point, somebody's going to say, wait, I have resources for you, and say, we have been working on this. And then we can kind of make sure that those connections are happening from county to county, state to state.
Yeah. Is this your first experience in advocacy for the profession or your first experience with regulation this closely?
Yes, for in terms of regulation, these two that we've been working on in terms of regulation. Advocacy, like I always feel like I'm not an advocate. And then I think that was like one of the episodes that I was on for Alyssa, where she was like massage as advocacy,
Yeah.
or I like called me an advocate, and I was like, I'm not an advocate. And she was like, yeah, you are. So I don't know. But I think in that regard, it was we've done. I think that might have been around the anti-racism stuff that we were doing. And at the time, obviously, when a lot of us had an awakening, unfortunately, a little too late in our lives, but with George Floyd and with everything else that was happening, I had a local group of not massage therapists, but a local group that I belonged to, a co-working space. And we had started a book club, and it just felt very trite. And all of us as a group decided we wanted to kind of like do something that took in more action oriented, whether that was even internal action, but just like, reading a book and talking about our feelings just felt like not maybe the right way to go about it. So we started a advocacy and action group where we could support the work that BIPOC people were already doing, rather than centering ourselves. And then we ended up within the massage business blueprint running a similar model for all of us to get together and talk about like things we could do and what we should be doing and how we should be working together. And Sakina Irizarry, who is like an amazing massage therapist, and she right now would be a great person for you to talk to too, because she's doing work on Black maternal health care and a lot of the racism that happens around that. So getting her into the history books for that would be really great. But she and I then started kind of co-leading, for lack of a better word, that group within Massage Business Blueprint, which then led us to a couple of courses that we did together. Since then, I found that, like, I think that perhaps my voice as a white woman with some privilege, maybe like I'm not quite sure if I am comfortable with my role in as an educator in that regard. So I think right now, if the opportunity comes up again, I'm not sure if I would do it or pass that on solely to someone, Black, Indigenous, person of color. But yeah, so that might have been where like maybe my first bit of advocacy maybe came in. And then we did some work around vaccine fairness during the pandemic. Our county, when we first opened vaccines up, had opened them at our government center, which would take a lot of people in my community 3 buses to get to. And, so you went into the parking lot and you just saw a lot of really nice cars. So people that were getting vaccines. So we tried to do some advocacy work around that by getting our elected officials involved and meeting with them and doing a couple of that stuff. And then when we were closed during the pandemic, and we weren't sure if we were supposed to reopen or not because the governor was calling us personal care services, but other people were saying we're allied health professionals. So, like, are we allowed to open? Are we not allowed to open? We weren't really sure. So, we did some advocacy work around that as well.
Awesome. Thank you for walking me through that too, because it's a interesting and I think important personal history.
Thank you.
See, yeah. I kind of want to shift gears and I especially want to be mindful of our time together. I just want to take the opportunity to say this has been a really interesting episode for me, kind of totally different than what we're used to doing here on the Hands of History podcast. So I want to take this opportunity to remind you that you're a part of living history and to take the opportunities to reflect on it and share and preserve what you're living through. Because even if you don't share it in your lifetime, I think the work that you're doing is important, and future generations in our profession and industry will be able to glean something important from it. So just want to take that opportunity to remind you, because it's very rare that I talk to someone that is in the process of making history. So
Oh,
yeah,
yeah, I mean that's it's hard, like just like with advocacy, it's hard for me like to kind of like accept that, but I appreciate it. So thank you very much. But I think like, listen, I am not necessarily like a name that people are going to remember, but I think like that's the point to me, right? Like history isn't just about the giants and the recognizable names. Like we're all a part of history and we can all be active part of making changes now that become collectively historic, right? And so what like history is stories and facts, theories and facts. So like I just am very like mindful, right? That it's not about like one person or one big idea. It's about like making sure that there's, I don't know, that maybe we could get to some sort of like equity eventually, but these little steps will like all collectively do that. And then we have the history to look back on that. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I kind of like, and maybe I'm just going to take what you said and kind of go my own Kirby way with it, but I like the idea. Yeah, we're all part of history, and every choice that we make, whether we choose to take a more active role or a less active role, it's still you're still playing your part in history on one side or the other. So just maybe that's just a call out for us all to be mindful of our role.
Yeah. Right. And like also like be okay to question things and be okay, like whether it's on our level, like questioning our town or our county, or like within massage, right? Questioning the people that we've always seen as the quote unquote expert. Because if they really are the expert, then they're going to be open to like having conversations about that. And then you can learn and they can learn. Like that's how we learn, adapt, change, recreate. I just think if we can ask the questions of the decisions of past leaders, present, future leaders too, that we're all going to be more educated for it and like, and then be able to preserve that history so we can learn from it, right?
That's the goal here. I want to ask you, as we move into some closing thoughts, I want to know, Meg, what are you most proud of when you look back over the last 9 years that you've been practicing?
I am honestly like most proud of the massage therapists that we have in our local area and across the US and internationally. Like, I'm just all of the groups that I belong to, some of them are uber local, like the independent massage therapists have heard in. Some of them are larger, what was Massage Blueprint that now is unbolstered. And what Heal Well, being a part of the Heal Well community. It just I'm in awe and like inspired in a way to act regularly with like all of these wonderful minds that aren't just using their minds, but they're using their hands as well. And like the impact that everyone is able to have through touch. So I would definitely say, like, all of the massage therapists around me that really kind of help me to be the best person that I can be.
Oh, that's a great answer. I love that. It is a everything, as much as we are siloed, so much is a communal effort, whether we can see it right in front of our faces or not.
Absolutely.
I have a few more closing questions. First of all, is there anything else you'd like to share that we haven't covered yet, or anything I should have asked that I didn't get around to?
Oh boy, I knew you were going to ask me this question. And I think we really like, again, I am a little bit like all over the place. What's that, like squirrel? Like I'm a little bit all over the place. So I appreciate you coming with me on through the divots and the dives and all of that. But no, I think we covered a lot. But yeah, if anyone has any questions or anything, they can always just reach out.
Okay, cool. Okay, so if you could record and preserve any deceased person's account of history, who would you choose? Who do you really look back in the annals of history? Is there one particular figure that really stands out to you that you'd like to learn more or have a conversation with, Meg?
Oh, okay. So I cheated and I was listening to the other podcast episodes,
Okay.
but you didn't have it only as deceased back then. So I had a different answer. So let me think now. Somebody who is gone that I would really like to speak to find out more about. Oh, to be honest with you, I think I would really love to hear more from my grandmother. She had passed before I was born. And so, as we tend to do sometimes with people, I kind of like, even my memories, like right now when I picture her, she's almost like what's it, Columbia Pictures, where there's the woman on the pedestal. Like that's the picture of my grandmother in my head that I have. And so I think what's really interesting is knowing people as a full and whole and complicated person that they really are. So I would love to meet with her to kind of really figure out like the real person that she was. And instead of my kind of like perfect image that I know of her and that, our family kind of like talks about. So, and I think that that would help me not just personally, but in my career in like many different ways. So,
I'm curious, Meg, that brings me back to a question way back at the start of this that I didn't ask. Do you come, is caretaking a part of your family? Because you mentioned you found your way into caretaking for someone in your family, but is that kind of like a tradition in your family?
yeah, I take on the caretaking role like often. Granted, I have a huge support system right now. So like the little bit of caretaking that I do at the moment, I have other people in my family that are helping out with in really huge and magnificent ways. But no, typically I will take on that role. So I don't know if that was, if that's a society thing, if that's a family culture thing, if that's just who I am, who knows? Who knows? I am, though, now wonderfully much better with boundaries, and that's been really great as well. So I think you can be a caretaker, but you really have to have really strong boundaries as well so that you know what your limits are. And that helps guide me with my clients as well, right? Because you can have boundaries in place then, and then really you're going to be the best you can be for them.
Absolutely. Caretakers, work on your boundaries, really flex those boundary muscles. Okay, then the flip side of that, tell me who should we have as a podcast guest? Who should we put in your seat next time?
All right, I'm giving you like a lot of answers, but
All right,
I
I love.
can't pick one. I can't pick one. So I think I mentioned it before, but I think Sakina Arizari would be a wonderful person to bring on. Her work on Black maternal health and racial bias is really profound and gives a lot of really great insight. So especially for anybody that's not only just in pregnancy massage, but just in general. Alyssa Haynes, of course. I mean, her unique positioning of independent massage therapist business owners, like it's a must have. And I love she's like no nonsense. And I can't say enough about her. Ruth Werner, our pathology queen. I mean, it's how we knew about what was a contraindication, right? So I would definitely talk to her, and I would love to kind of talk to her about how like contraindications have changed through the years and which are universally unchanged. Kathy Ryan on fascial research and fascial history would be great. Rajam Rose, she is a massage therapist and she ran the San Diego Pain Summit. So she, San Diego Pain Summit is what first introduced me to the biopsychosocial model and a lot of, the work of that whole group of people, which is another conversation for another day. And then Tracy Walton, because learning and using the Walton pressure scale has really made a huge impact in my work and understanding what pressure is. So yeah, so that's a lot.
Those are great answers. And yeah, we definitely would love to have a conversation with. So thank you, Meg.
And there were other people as well, but I was like, oh, wait, Kirby talked to them already. Like Devon, I was like, Devonna, you have to talk to Devonna. And I'm like, oh wait, I gotta listen to that episode.
I always love a little plug to everybody go back and listen to our.
Yeah, go back and listen. Uh-huh.
All right, so tell us, do you have anything coming up next? Anything that you would like to share or promote? A little self-promotion here.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that really right now, our focus, unfortunately, has to be on these local regulations because they're really going to impact whether or not our businesses can stay in the county. But that means that what I have to promote would be if anyone else is interested in starting framework now in case they're worried about regulation in the future, or if they're in the process of fighting regulation right now, to please reach out to me so I could share the resources that we currently have. And so you don't have to kind of start from ground zero. Yeah, I would say that's probably it for right now.
Let me ask, it sounds like, correct me if I'm wrong, the sense that I get from this is that you really took advantage of people being kind of up in arms against that $1,000. Like the money issue was really easy to hook them in, and you really took advantage of that to keep networking going. Does that sound right, Meg?
Yes, what I would say is that that's what got us all riled up. And then when we got together, we realized like, wow, we're a group of really amazing people that really like have a lot in common, and a lot different. But also like we then were able to start supporting each other as like siloed business owners. We could support each other in certain ways while still keeping our anonymity and like not sharing, secrets of our business and stuff like that. So yes, I would agree that that was the catalyst for it. But then what happened was just this like amazing group. I can't even imagine not being around.
Oh, I love that. That's really what I think we need to inspire more of in our industry right now. So if listeners or viewers are interested, what is there a best way to get a hold of you or get in contact with you to learn more, Meg?
Yeah, sure. They could go to my contact us page on my website, which is Nova Weekend Warriors with an S. So that's NOVA Weekend Warriors with an S.com, and send me a message. They can also private message me on Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn or anywhere. And that's just basically at Nova Weekend Warrior without the S on the end, is where I am on any social media. And either way, just let me know. And then, we can have a conversation. That I can give you my email address, and then, I can send you any resources you want. Or if you have resources to share with me, since we're in the middle of the struggle, then please reach out to me. Like I know I'm meeting with Julie, who's on the board for the Society of Massage Archives. And so I know I'm meeting with her, I think in the next couple of weeks, for some resources that she has. So, we can kind of like make the network a little bit bigger. I'm also meeting with someone from Healwell to talk about it as well, for some work that's being done in Michigan. So yeah, we're all in it together. Let's, kind of create a network.
Yeah, collaborate, give and take, everybody.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I want to thank you so much, Meg. This has been a unique opportunity for me. And yeah, I think this is going to be a really helpful and awesome episode. I wish you all the best of luck there in Virginia for a successful fight for you guys.
Thank you, Kirby. And thank you for what you're doing. This is really impactful, and is going to have a long lasting effect by you having these conversations with people, that we can kind of take into the future. And it's going to just help us as a profession. So I appreciate you.
I really hope so. And I truly appreciate those words, Meg. Thank you so much.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please consider donating to the Society of Massage Archives so we can continue to bring you this episode and other resources to fulfill our mission of preserving and integrating the historical knowledge of massage therapy's professional advocacy and traditional techniques to guide and enrich our contemporary practices. Thank you. You have been listening to the Hands of History podcast, a production of the Society of Massage Archives. You can learn more about the Society at societyofmassagearchives.org. We are also on Facebook and Instagram. Do you know someone whose hands have helped shape the practice of massage? If you or someone you know would make a great guest for future episodes of this podcast, please email the Society at societyofmassagearchives@gmail.com. Society of Massage Archives, all one word, @gmail.com.